Welcome to the Startup Grind. So without further ado, let's welcome Kevin Rose to the Startup Grind stage. Here we go. That mic, please.
This is amazing. I had no idea this was happening.
He's not with you?
He is not with me.
You would have known if he'd been in your car on the way down.
I think Zuckerberg has guys like this.
Chris is actually, Chris is our, what's that?
He needs guys like that.
Yeah, he does. Well, he's got it now. Chris is actually our community manager. He's great. I mean, he couldn't be better at what he does. Maybe give him a little bit of space, Chris, if that works for you. That would work for us. Yeah, when I said a little bit, you know, maybe a little bit more, like 6 or, okay, yeah, okay. So, you know, sometimes it's your first time attending, right?
Yes. Is this the normal thing that happens every time?
Well, it varies. You know, it varies. Tony Conrad, we definitely needed
Multiple
the community.
cards,
yeah, we needed the community managers. MG Siegler, not as much. You know. But Chris, sometimes, you know, our founders, we have a great crowd, but sometimes they get a little zealous. You know, they can really, you know, they can come at the.
Kevin, I actually have a business plan for Asian Fusion, and I really think
Take care of him.
that.
Yeah, let's give it up for Chris. I mean, this is. Just don't, okay? Yeah. So come on, you guys. You know what? Let's bring him out. Give him a seat. Come on out, guys. I don't know what's going on. Just give him a seat. Come on. Give Gio. I mean, give Gio a round of applause. He's trying. He's trying to stand out. So Kevin, we're stoked to have you. There's a lot to talk about. I sent an email yesterday just to the audience to say, you know, what did you want to hear from Kevin? We got dozens and dozens of questions, so
Sweet.
We'll try and work through them. But in the spirit of foundation, I wanted to start out and have you tell us a little bit about where you're from and kind of where you grew up, and tell us about your family a little bit.
Sure. I grew up in Las Vegas, Nevada, of all places. Not a big fan of Vegas anymore. Kind of had a little bit too much of that in my youth. But went to UNLV for computer science. Dropped out of school. Moved out here in 2000 to San Francisco during the end of the first .com boom. Worked for a handful of startups, ended up landing a job at Tech TV, ended up hosting a TV show on Tech TV for a little while, for about a year and a half, and then started Digg in late 2004. And then after that, just started angel investing and a whole slew of different things.
And you, can you tell us a little bit, what's your family background in terms of your parents? Did your dad work in tech, or did your mom? What was your background?
So dad was an accountant. Mom very artsy, very much into everything from. She had a gourmet gift basket business and did flower arrangements and things like that. Always a very good artist.
You did it like at the house, or did she have a?
Yeah, she did some of that at the house. She like took over our garage at one point. But you know, a family of entrepreneurs. Like really, my dad worked for himself. Mom the same way. My sister is a big buyer for Zappos right now, so she handles like 4 or 5 of their private brands. So she's got like 15 employees. They're a separate company than Zappos. But just, you know, I think that I learned a lot from my dad and watching him. And I remember at a very young age seeing, you know, my dad have his own office in the house, and thinking like, well, he doesn't go to work. That's so cool, you know, because he was always at the house, and I was like, that's so awesome. He's just on his computer all day long, and I want to do that. And so I eventually.
You're sure he was working, right? He was.
There's a little bit of TV watching there as well. Definitely some football games happened, but.
And so you were in Las Vegas. You went to UNLV. You studied computer science, right? And well, I mean, did you plan to be an engineer? Were you? Did you had a fascination with computers, or what was the motivation behind being?
You know, I started programming when I was probably around 13 or 14 years old, and just basic and Visual Basic, and then some Pascal. And then, you know, went into school and was doing the same thing, but it was just kind of boring. I liked it a little bit more. I was also big into Photoshop and playing around with like creating my own websites back then, and coding. I think just I was good but not great, and so I would always meet developers that were a lot better than me. But I was really good at taking a product and figuring out, just looking at something and looking at a problem and trying to figure out why it's not working or how it could be better. And so I think that I started to drift a little bit more towards kind of product design and being more of a PM type role.
Right from the right out of school. I mean, do you feel like you always kind of had that skill set?
Yeah, I think I started when I was at Tech TV. I had a couple little projects that I outsourced and had developers write for me, and I was very much the person that was coordinating the entire thing. So bringing together the illustrators or designers, and then also working with the developers, and kind of marrying those two things, and just making sure everything would flow right, and that, you know, there wasn't anything that was glaringly wrong with the product, that the usability was okay. Like, it was just something that I was just always fascinated with, that side of the house.
Yeah. And so you came out of UNLV, and then you, like you said, you did some things with Tech TV. You were down in LA. Right, G4 did some things
initially, Tech TV was San Francisco based.
San Francisco, okay.
And then we were acquired by Comcast, and I was forced to move down to LA for a year.
Okay, and then when you,
it's okay. It's a lot of traffic. It's kind of crappy.
And so you've talked about the founding of Digg extensively, so we're not really going into it too much. But you came back up here after that and got Digg going. And can you give us the kind of, you know, again, you've told the story a lot, but
sure, quickly
kind of tell.
Yeah, I mean, it was just started Digg in LA actually.
Yeah.
When I was down there working for G4, and it was really just looking at these existing sites that were out there. I mean, Slashdot was pretty much the biggest tech news site that was out there at the time, and it was just looking at that and seeing there was all this user generated content. Like, all these users were submitting great content to Slashdot, but the editor was picking the ones that belonged on the homepage. And so it was really thinking like, well, Ajax was just starting to come out, where you could actually, you probably all remember this, where when websites actually became alive a little bit, where you could click a button and something would happen without having to go to another page. So it wasn't quite working yet, and so when we first launched Digg, to dig something, you would click the dig button, it would take you to another page and say like, thank you for your dig. And then I remember, like, when we got that actually working to where it could happen on the page, I was like, this is so cool. You can click a button and the vote goes up. And like, nobody was doing this. There was no Facebook likes or anything like this. And I was like really excited about the fact that it seemed like a fun little game that people could do, and also just giving the power back to the people so that they could choose the best stories.
Yeah.
So that was really the premise, and it was just kind of building on that idea. And so you know, we built a prototype in about I'd say about a month, and just launched it and threw it out there and wanted to see what would happen if we exposed it to some people.
And you bootstrapped it, right? You funded it yourself?
Yeah, I basically had about you know, $4,000 or $5,000 in the bank at the time, and I spent all that savings. And my girlfriend at the time was really pissed because we were supposed to be saving for a down payment on a house or something like that, and so
awesome.
She was not very happy about that decision. We ended up breaking up, but we're still very good friends today.
Digg worked out though, so that's cool.
It worked out. But you know, it's all kind of one of those things where bootstrapping, I think, is the best way. I hate to go out and raise money unless you actually can kind of prove out an idea first.
Yeah.
It's so cheap to do new projects nowadays.
Yeah, I mean, a lot of the startups that you see or that you look at, are they doing that, or are they bringing you mock-ups? Are they bringing you live code? Are they bringing you something in the App Store? Where is it coming to you generally? The startups that ended up getting funding? I
think it's fairly flushed out now. I think that there's actually working prototypes.
Yeah.
It's you know, the ideas are pretty baked. So I would say that oftentimes it's, you know, I had a friend that introduced me to an investor, and I've raised 25 grand, and I'm looking to raise $500,000, or and this is what I've done with that 25,000, right? Mm-hmm. And so I was able to quit my job, and I spent the last 3 months building this, and it's me and 2 other people, and that's like a typical setup that I would see.
Yeah. So we're going to get to angel investing, but I want to talk to you a little bit about Digg Nation, which you just recently, after 6 years, almost 7 years actually, right, shut down. How this was a question that we got. How important do you think Digg Nation has been for your career, and how important was it to Digg, and how important was it for you personally?
Well, Digg was already starting to take off before we actually started to do the podcast Digg Nation, so it was growing at a decent clip. I think that Digg Nation was a great outlet to talk to the community. So we had, oftentimes we talk about the most popular stories on Digg, and so the users that were submitting those stories would hear their name on the podcast. They know that the podcast had a lot of people watching it and listening to it, so it was like an extra little incentive for them to want to submit great content. So early on, it definitely helped out. It's been great. It's been a great vehicle to announce new projects, to talk about all of the crazy tech stuff that's going on. I mean, I think that a little bit of my DNA has always been in media and doing TV-related stuff, and so being able to get back to that and sit on a couch and drink beers with a co-host, and so it's always felt very natural and organic, and it's always felt like I'd be doing that regardless of whether we had the camera turned on. It's just
like you'd have a host at your house, or what do you mean?
I mean, just BSing with a friend. I mean, we all do it. We all talk about gadgets and what's going on, and it's just like, Yeah,
you just filmed it.
The fact that we get paid to do that is pretty amazing.
It was awesome. Yeah, and you met amazing people, right? You had all sorts of guests on your show and access to those people. What was Digg, when Digg launched, was it like Facebook where Zuckerberg says, oh, it's 22,000 hits, in the first night? Was it one of those where like overnight success, something like clearly sparked something, or was it was it slow?
Digg has never been a viral site in any way. It's always been month over month slow growth, and it was we were pegged at 100 new registered users per day for a pretty long time. And I remember, we'd get 150, 200 registered users a day, and then all of a sudden it was growing from there. And I don't know, at its peak, I don't even know what we were doing, maybe 20 or 30,000 a day or something like that. But
wow.
So it was just watching that climb.
Yeah, and it did and did it always climb? Was it the type of thing where, like a lot of startups, that you had to tweak it along the way, that it would dip down, or was it just consistent growth month over month over month, kind of like we're seeing with Pinterest at this point?
I think it was consistent month. It was definitely consistent month over month. There are certain months that are a little bit slow, just due to seasonality and depending on whether people are going to school or what's going on, how much time they're actually spending at their computer. But I think that it was always like that. It started to slow down initially about 6 months before the last Digg V4 that we launched, and it just, people were starting to flock to other sites. They were starting to go to Twitter and Facebook, and we were seeing more of our traffic just erode through a handful of different things. But by that point, Digg was 5 years old, and these things they go in cycles. At first, I was really scratching my head and trying to figure out what can we do to stay relevant, and there was a lot of people. We made some bad decisions based upon, we need to be more like Twitter, we need to be more like Facebook to try and get these users to stick around. But part of it, I think is you need to try and obviously stay ahead and stay alive and win, but at the same time, I realize now that sometimes there's not much you can do to avoid different ways of communication. I feel that there was always these questions over the years where people would say are you worried about this site? Are you worried about that site? Or and I would look at the site and it would be exactly like a Digg clone. We saw 1,000 different Digg clones, 10,000 of them. We had one that was a porn site, and the more the penis got dug, the larger it would become. I kid you not. We saw these clones. It was weird.
Hey, Don,
but
did you make that? We have the founder here.
Nice, sorry.
There was Digg with the triple D,
right?
That was another one.
Yeah, it was. There was all types of stuff, but it was never those that really frightened me. It was really someone taking a different angle, and I think that when news started breaking on Twitter was the first time where I was like, "Damn, I'm so glad I invested in Twitter." No, I'm just kidding. I was. I definitely looked at that and I was like, well, that's going to be hard to beat because they were just so lightweight and they were getting so much more data than us. Yeah, that was tough.
Yeah, and did you? When you walked away from Digg, how did you feel? It was your baby. You'd bootstrapped it. You put your own money in from day one, and you were, to everyone here observing it, you were Digg. Right, your face was so tied to the company.
For sure.
That how was that walking away from that and kind of giving that away? And I know you had kind of were less involved well before you actually left, but you weren't CEO and you were still active with product. But how did you feel? How difficult was it?
It was a roller coaster the entire time, because there were so many user revolts on the site. I mean, people will remember the HD DVD key and all these different, where we'd have hundreds of thousands of users like revolting against us and taking over our site and putting crazy things on the front page. And it's like every time that would happen, it's like I would get like another ulcer or something, and it was awesome. And I feel like after 5 years of that, like it just took its toll on me to where I wasn't really passionate about the product the way I once was. Yeah. And so I feel like I got a little burnt out. I just needed to kind of reset a little bit, and so I kind of focused on doing more angel investing for a while until I felt like I could take on and start something new again.
Is that advice you have for founders that, how does a founder figure out when he needs to or she needs to walk away from their baby, whether it's been successful or not? But how does one come to that conclusion, that decision?
Well, that's a good question. I was reading that Steve Jobs book, and I think it really, one thing struck a chord with me. He talked about how if you look yourself in the mirror, every single day and you say, I hate this, and you're not really enjoying your job. And if you do that for too many days in a row, then you need to change something, right? And I think I tried to do that. I was like, didn't enjoy my job, and I switched my focus a little bit at the company, and then I just realized like I need to step away from this a little bit so I can get a little bit of perspective, and then help out from a board level. So that's what I did.
The thing that I personally always appreciate about what you did even with Digg V4 was that there was this group of these users that you're talking about that would give you these ulcers that, and sometimes it was great what they did, but other times even as a user it was like, what the freak is this? And it was just this group, this hardcore group of people, that these super users that would, sometimes kind of take over. And it seemed like what you guys tried to do was just, really take a fresh stab at it and say, hey, we're gonna do what we think is right, and our users may not like it, but we're just gonna go for it. And
we really kind of had to. We had to make some type of change because, it's funny because if you take a look at Digg, at that point in time, it was losing traffic. It was starting to decline a little bit. People were going to other sites, and so we had to roll the dice and try some big, bold things. I think that we could have done that in a little bit more of a staged beta where we let people in, let them try it out, let the community give us feedback, and definitely we set it up where we swapped out the back end at the same time we swapped out the front end, which I think was a really bad move, because essentially what happened is we made this change to this new platform in Cassandra and everything else off of PHP, and then we got all this really harsh, bad feedback on some of the features. Some of the features were okay, and then we wanted to make some changes, but we couldn't because our backend was falling over. Yeah. And so we had this broken site, this little wagon icon that I still dream about at night. And it's like, it was just by that point, by the time we could actually reverse some of these features and bring some of this functionality back online, it was, you
had to build it all from
we'd already
scratch.
Started ourselves. Yeah. And the users were just like, clearly Digg doesn't care about us. It's been 2.5 weeks, and we're like putting out fires, and it was just a really bad move.
Yeah. Well, so I really want to talk about milk a lot. We've got, and the first thing I want to talk to you about is at what point so you're doing this angel investing, and at what point did you say, I think I want to start a new company? Was it around a specific idea? Was it just, hey, I just, I want to get this going again? Where did it spark from?
So I think that, part of the problem that I had, maybe it's ADHD or something, but I've always had a hard time. I've always had too many ideas running through my brain, and a lot of them really suck. And we've built some of them and never launched them. Jeff, one of my co-founders of Milk, is back there, and we built one actually at Milk, and we never launched it. But I'll tell you about it if you want to hear it.
Yeah, no, we'd love to hear about it. Yeah.
All right. So we built this extension. What were we calling it? Pika, that's right. Pika.
Love it.
Okay, so we built this Chrome extension called Pika, and essentially what it would do is that it would install this bar at the bottom of your screen once you install it in Chrome, and as you're browsing around the web, you could essentially say that I'm okay with sharing with my friends that I'm here. So anytime I'm on TechCrunch and any of these articles, I'm okay with the domain of TechCrunch, right?
Okay.
And so there'd be this little countdown clock, and it would count down from 10 down to 0. and if you didn't say stop, it would automatically share out where you were on the web. And so you're sitting there and we install it with a bunch of friends, and you see like your friends' icons, and they'd be like checking their Gmail and like doing all these random things. And then you get these
That takes a turn for worse.
It can, and we learned that. And it takes, then you get these
Jeff's friends mostly, right?
You get these 3 bombs, like a little tiny bomb, like an explosion, per 24 hours. And a bomb essentially forces your friends to a web page. So if you found something really cool, you could drop a bomb and it would open a new tab and all your friends would be on the same page. And then it would make this explosion sound. It would be like you just got bombed. It was a horrible product.
The bomb is what it is.
It is a horrible product, but it was fun to develop. And that was something where, you know.
I'm in for $100, $200. What can I?
We got together and we started thinking about, okay, well then you could have like loyalty reward programs around this. So if I spend enough time on the New York Times, then they can give me like a free subscription. Or we're thinking about all these different things we could do with it. Ended up being a bad idea. We killed it off, but we realized that we really like rapidly prototyping out ideas.
Yeah.
Like, why not try a bunch of different stuff? Daniel Burka, who was my old creative director at Digg, he had since left and joined Stuart Butterfield from Flickr to work on Glitch.
Yeah.
He was there for like a year, realized he didn't really like video games that much, and then was looking at, he was interviewing at Facebook and a few other companies, and he was like, well, I'm considering a startup again. I'm like, well, if you're considering a startup, like, let's get together and the 3 of us can go and launch something and just, you know, have our own little labs company where we churn out 2 or 3 ideas a year, and some will fail and some might be cool, and we'll see what happens.
Yeah. And so then you guys, so this was your first thing, which you killed immediately, I'm imagining.
Yeah, we didn't even launch it.
Yeah. And then where did Oink come from? Where did the idea for Oink come from?
So Oink, you know, I was sitting at a restaurant and I was having an amazing burger. And I remember thinking, like, it's a shame that I can't tell anyone about this burger. Yeah, I can Instagram it, but that kind of goes out and then it just dies away down the path. Like, I want something that, like, at this location, when you get at a place, you can say, what is the best thing here? And what have my friends tried here before? And then if there's anyone that I look up to, like a food critic or, you know, a celebrity or something, what have they had here, right? Yeah. And then I was thinking, well, this burger's awesome. I know it's the best burger, but what if we take this item and allow it to be compared against other similar items? So how does this rank against all other burgers in San Francisco, all other burgers within 5 miles? And so we started out with a pretty rough prototype, and then we started taking pictures of all kinds of random stuff, and we invited in like 20 or 30 of our friends. And then, you know, one of our friends went to a theme park and all of a sudden was rating his favorite roller coasters, and we were like, whoa, that's a weird use case we haven't seen before. And then we saw another person that was rating like their hygienist and like taking pictures of them, and I was like, well, that's strange. And then and it was like under the tag like dentist or whatever, and then there was a ranking of dentists, and we were like, you know, this could be pretty cool if we allow people to, you know, part of the problem I always had with Yelp is, you know, you go in there and you look at the star rating and you kind of judge it based on what you see in the stars, but to get at the meat at what you really want is like buried in those reviews, you know, and they were really long, sometimes multi-page reviews, and I wanted a really lightweight, more more mobile-friendly way to do that. Yeah. And so we just got the domain name Oink and decided to launch that.
Yeah. And did you, I mean, with that, with Yelp, did you feel like, I mean, it feels like it follows this trend of, you know, just diving deeper into the data. How deep can we go into the data? And that feels like the next, you know, simple evolution with Yelp, right? Is that they're so general. Yeah, they have a lot of places, but you guys are diving deep into very specifics within the products and with those services. So
yeah, I mean, I don't know if it's going to work. It's still very early days. Yeah. But you know, we have had a lot of people write back and say, I discovered something really cool because of your app. And there's certain pieces of the app that a lot of people are using that we're like, huh, a lot of people are adding to-dos when they see really cool stuff because they want to be notified when they're around that place later. And so we're kind of redesigning the app now in this next version that we're going to launch in a couple months that is a lot more focused on exactly what people are doing with the app versus what we thought they were going to do when we launched it.
Yeah. And so in your philosophy at Milk and so Oink is everyone, how big is the team, and is everyone focused specifically on this? Do you have other people that are building, you know, prototypes for other projects? How does the structure of the company work?
So there's a couple of us now that are starting to at least whiteboard and kind of create flow charts of how some other projects we might want to work on.
Yeah.
And so I've kind of, like, Daniel is tidying up all the last bits of V2. He's our head designer. And then I've gone off with another guy, and we're just working on some ideas for different product stuff. So we pull the team together for all hands meetings like once a week, and we give updates on what we're thinking and try and take in their feedback if they have any ideas for cool projects that we might want to tackle. And then, but the team's 7 people total.
So this was a question we got from the audience, was that, it feels like there's definitely some Digg characteristics in there, right, of voting things up and voting things down. And like you said, it's everywhere now, right? It's likes, it's Quora, that mechanic is pretty ubiquitous. Have you felt like this is any sort of iteration on that, of the voting mechanic? Have you felt like that those two things are tied together? Is that something that do you think about, like, what is the next
I don't know that this is a step forward.
Uh-huh.
I really don't. I don't think it is, because I feel like, if anything, we're all getting a little bit of, like, little fatigue on using this stuff. Like, I'm a little bit, we have Foursquare, and we have Path, and we have Instagram, we have all these things competing for our time, right? And I don't know if it's just me. How many people are just getting a little tired of doing all that stuff? Some other people, I'm starting to see more and more people be like, I'm not checking in as much, or I'm not doing this as much. And I just feel like, I don't know if adding just voting again on top of something else is the next step. If anything, it might be to take that away.
I saw our community manager in the back, Chris. You better not get tired of that stuff, dude. That's your job. You better be tweeting that all day long, man. Have you guys cornered up all the final animal sound domains? Are they gone now? Have you guys? What have you got?
Oink. All I have is Oink.
I looked up a few. Like, did you get Hiss?
Did not get Hiss.
Gibber?
Hiss is not a bad one, though. I like Hiss.
Or Groan. That was another one that was. I don't remember exactly which animal that was, but it's an animal noise. Okay, just trust me. It's in the dictionary. So you're. I mean, in terms of you'll keep iterating on Oink, and hopefully this next version will increase engagement, and then what? You'll just keep iterating on it. You'll see, you may move on to something else, or what?
Yeah, I think
what do you see?
we're looking for something to kind of double down on. We do want to focus on something and put all of the team behind it. But we're also still very early. We're a young company. We're just kind of experimenting to see what else is potentially out there. We'll launch this next version, let it run for a few months, and then just evaluate it from there. Probably, if we see some decent traction, we'll launch an Android version.
Okay.
I had to say that just because I know there's Android people here.
What is the ratio? iPhone, raise the hands. Okay. Android.
Windows.
Are you
serious?
It's always a Windows guy. There's always that guy. And that guy's name is. No, I'm just kidding. What about WebOS? Any WebOS? We usually get maybe half a WebOS guy is usually here. So let's talk about angel investing. You've invested in Square, in Twitter, Foursquare, in About.me. You've been an advisor for. When you see these companies, and at the moment, just to kind of clarify, at the moment you're not really actively investing, right? You kind of still meet with some entrepreneurs, but you're not really, not like before before you started Milk, where you were really actively investing. But or are you?
Not really, not as much as I once was. I had a lot more free time back then, so I would take more meetings. But I think that now there's a community of people that you get to know that are also angel investors, and every once in a while they'll have a deal, or I'll see something cool and send it to them, or they'll see something cool and send it to me. And so it happens every few months, but it's not. I mean, I'm probably doing 4 or 5 things a year, maybe.
Yeah. And what are the criteria that everybody has kind of standard criteria that they look for? What are the things that you immediately look for when you meet with an entrepreneur or a team?
Well, I like ideas that aren't Me Too ideas, that isn't just an improvement on something, or I am the Airbnb for this. Yeah. So new, fresh ideas, brilliant entrepreneurs. I think that I don't know if you've ever met Caleb from Yobongo. Do you know him at all? So Yobongo is one of those services that. What's that?
The group messaging? Is that
yeah, not many people have heard about them. They launched, and they kind of
acquired, right?
No, not yet. But they've been. He's one of those guys where I sat down with, and as an entrepreneur, I wasn't totally fully sold on the idea. I was like, well, this is a cool concept, but he was just so brilliant. I'm like, this guy's gonna do something huge eventually, So I kind of went all in on him, just because I know he's gonna kill it someday. But basically products that I can get behind. I think that part of the value that I bring as an investor is like exposing some of the people that follow my work to cool new things.
Yeah.
And so, you know, I try and get behind projects that I'm like, wow, I think that not only would I use this, but I know other people that would, and I can help that entrepreneur as well. And stuff that, you know, also products that hopefully I can bring some product experience to as well. So if it's usability stuff, it's mobile, whatever it may be.
Yeah. Yeah, so you're talking about basically like helping with marketing or distribution,
Right.
like tweeting about it, using it, and getting that group to use it. What type of financial investments do you usually make? I mean, how are you? You know, does it vary completely? Is it in the in the tens of thousands, hundreds of thousands? Where do you typically invest?
So I don't have a fund or anything like that. So
Sure.
it's just me personally. But typical angel deals are anywhere from like 25 to 75K per investment. I think that if there's later stage stuff, you know, if you're investing in Facebook now, or not now, but Facebook 2 years ago, you know, you're not going to put 25K in.
Yeah.
You definitely put a lot more once the the company's a little bit more baked. Yeah, I mean, it really varies.
And I think people have this conception, and it may or may not be true. I'd love for you to tell us that you could pretty much get into any deal that you wanted to get into.
That's not true.
You know, and yeah, is it not true?
That's not true. I mean, so a great example is
Who would believe that? If raise a hands, who would think Kevin could get into any deal?
Don't raise your
Look,
hands.
no one's raising their hands because you just said that. Look, sold me out. Not even one of the loyal guys.
Well,
Thanks, Alex. Yeah. Won't
so
forget that.
Square was a great example of that.
Yeah, why don't you tell us the story?
Jack Dorsey, you know, I've hung out with him a handful of times, just in passing at different parties and things like that. We've hung out and had conversations and whatnot, but I really don't know him that well. Better now since I made the investment, but I hit him up and I heard about Square, and it was going around the valley. I heard like Jack's working on something. I was like, I don't know what this is. I didn't have a chance to see the deal, and then I heard that he was fully booked. I mean, everyone wanted him once they found out what this was, and I found out what it was, and I was like, oh, that's cool. That's really cool. That's gonna be huge.
We used it tonight.
Yeah, I saw that. That was awesome. You have an old one too. It's like really janky.
Yeah.
You gotta get a new one.
It's like most of our stuff.
So I saw that deal and I was like, wow, this is really awesome. I hit Jack up. I sent him an email. I'm like, can I get in? Come on. Like, what do you got? And he's just like, I can't let you in. I'm sorry. It's oversubscribed, blah, blah. And so I went out and I was like, you know what? I'm going to make an awesome video. And so I went and shot an HD video of the Square for the first time. And I was like, this is how it works. This is why it's so cool, because I had a little early pre-release version of it. And the video ended up getting a couple 100,000 views. And I sent it to him.
Was professionally done and everything?
Yeah, totally. I had a whole HD crew come out, and it was awesome. And so, you know, after I launched that, he was like, wow, you can drive some traffic and some usage. Like, okay, I'll make a little room for you. And that's how I got in.
You sent him the bill for the video.
Exactly.
Yeah. So what can you, I mean, that's a great example of you kind of now working your way into it. And I think like for founders, it's, you know, you constantly, there's this sense sometimes of, gosh, if this guy would just, you know, kind of king me, I'd be there. But even for you, I mean, you're hustling, you know, you're trying to get deals, and do you see founders doing similar things that catch your eye, where, you know, they'll go out and do something or target something at you that's highly produced, or they put a lot of time and energy into that makes a difference?
Yeah, I think that I've seen a couple strategies that work really well. In fact, a couple people used it here tonight, where they come up to you and it's not just like, hey, I have this site and here's my business card. It's more like, here's my demo, check this out. Here's my game, play with it. Here's my product. And it's like, you know, that's cool, because then I can really check it out. Because you can imagine that a lot of these investors, you get, I mean, just a lot of crap. It's just true. There's a lot of people out there creating stuff. Some people have great, awesome stuff, and there's some people that just don't, it's their first time, there's a lot of garbage. And so you have to wade through all this stuff.
Yeah.
And if you have, you know, an hour or 2 hours a day to go through this and figure out where you might want to return an email, if it's just like a pitch, I get a lot of like 1 or 2 or 3 paragraph pitches that's like, yeah, I'm not a developer and I don't have this, but you know, if you just call me. I can't tell you the idea. Call me. And
I believe I can fly. I believe I can
like,
touch this guy.
You got to have something, you know, like go out, find if you're not a coder, that's fine. I wasn't either. And you got to find like a technical co-founder and like get a prototype made. If you're really that passionate about it and you really want to win, you'll go to that level, right? You'll create a demo.
Sure.
And so if there's a link that isn't like an IP address that I think I'm gonna get a virus from, like, you know, I'll click out, I'll check out the demo. If there's a video, that's awesome too. I'll check out the video, and it's like that's a great way to get in front of these people, because I think that, you know, if you see like a little YouTube video or a Vimeo video or whatever, 9 times out of 10 the investor will click through and just watch a 1-minute pitch of something, you know.
Yeah. Have you ever invested in a company from a completely cold email, just out of the blue, no referral or anything like that?
You mean that they emailed in to me that I found? That's a good question. I'm sure it's happened. I'd have to look through the list of companies.
Yeah, we had Jeff Clavey here last month, or a few months ago, and he said he hadn't. He never had invested in a company from a cold email, and they always came through introductions, and it's part of the filtering process. And it feels like, you know, sometimes as an entrepreneur, you just, you know, you get in this mode like, you know, you're so desperate sometimes, like, I just got to make this happen. And, you know, we don't go through the right channels, and they're in place for good reason. Sometimes they're not, but a lot of times they are. They filter out the crap.
Yeah, and I got to say that a really good strategy for getting some of these brilliant product minds is to kind of work your way into them through someone else that they know. You know, I've gotten I've passed on a lot of recommendations to people that a lot of people wouldn't have access to. You know, like you're not going to be able to track down Jack Dorsey. He's too busy running around doing 1,000 different things, right? But if you can somehow get to someone that he knows and trusts, that will pass that deal on to him, at least for a yes or no, like that's how you get in. It's not by necessarily approaching them directly, you know.
What is there anyone that you would like to meet or network with but you're not able to? Is there anyone that you're like, man, or you have tried to reach out to but have been unable to meet?
That's a great question.
I didn't write it.
Yeah, you know what, the Venmo guys I would like to meet. I haven't met them yet.
Yeah.
I've been using that app a lot. I don't know if you guys have used it. It's like free PayPal, and it's just so easy to send money to friends when you're doing.
They're like in the Midwest somewhere, right?
I don't know where they're at. I haven't even looked into it yet, but that's an app I've been using a lot that I'd like to meet them.
Iowa. Yeah.
I don't know how they're gonna make money, but I'm using it now. It's cool.
Yeah. If you were a first-time founder, if you walked into this room, you know, you packed up your car, and this happens. There are people that may be here tonight that have done this. Pack up your car, came out to Silicon Valley, first-time founder. What's the first thing you would do? What would you?
Stuff like this.
Yeah.
Events, parties. You know, don't be afraid to crash a party, but don't be obnoxious about it. You know, just kind of. Meet some people, network. Like I've just, you know, I've become friends with a lot of people randomly that just, you know, became friends of friends, and then you just end up hanging out, and they're like, oh, I'm new to town, and I just met a guy here a minute ago, right there. He came up and he's like, you know, I want to do some BD stuff. I like to hustle. I like to do this. I'm like, you should meet my BD guy Chris, and they're gonna go have coffee, and like they'll meet friends. Awesome. And you know, it's like that kind of stuff is just a great way to get involved and connected.
If you were a first-time entrepreneur, would you apply for incubators like Y Combinator, TechStars? Would you do that, or would you do like?
Yeah, I think so. I think that I've gone and given a couple talks there, and I've sat in a few other different things, and I think that there's a lot of structure that you get. I remember the first time that I went to try and raise money, I had brought on Jay at that time to be the CEO of Digg, and I didn't know the first thing about anything when it came to difference between a priced round and a convertible note and the way to structure debt and all these different things that I just needed a crash course on.
Yeah.
And I feel that you know, you may have the tech side down, but you're probably missing as a first-time entrepreneur. There's like one of the 4 main categories that as a CEO you need to at least be proficient in. You know, whether it's marketing or the tech side or the BD side or whatever it may be. And it's like there's one of those that it's just going to help with. You know, it'll fill in those gaps.
Yeah.
You know, that said, if you double majored in or CS/business degree, maybe not. You know.
Yeah. Do you? We talked about this a little bit, but would you spend? You know, would you bootstrap it again? Would you fundraise? Would you? You know, what would be the time ratio that you'd spend like building a product versus trying to outraise money to fund building a product?
Well, it really depends on how capital intensive the product is. I mean, if you're building data centers, you're going to raise a ton of money. If you're doing something that is, a buddy of mine has an app on the App Store that's in the top 5, consistently in the top 5 of paid apps, and it's like 99 cents. And I won't tell you the app because he'd kill me, but he makes like 30 grand a day just chilling.
Wow.
And then there's no server back end, and he just hangs out, and he doesn't need to raise money, and it's like him and a couple other friends.
What was his name again?
Yeah, nice try. But like that kind of thing, you don't really ever have to go out and raise funds. And that said, also if you do need to raise money, the longer you wait, just the better it's going to be for you, because your valuation just keeps going up and up and up, right? And you give away less of your company.
Yeah.
So if you do have the means to bootstrap it a little bit longer, and you think you're on to something,
sure,
then I'd hold off as long as possible.
Let's take a couple of questions from the audience. You can also submit a question in the iOS app if you want, if you've got an iPad or iPhone. Yeah, go ahead, and I'll repeat it after. What were the 4 proficiencies?
I just made up that there was 4. I don't even know that there are. I mean, I just think that in looking at a handful of CEOs, I like to see CEOs with some tech background, like a little bit of CS in there somewhere, just because they have a really hard time. I've met some CEOs that are all design centered, and it's awesome, and they're really good at building beautiful products, but they don't know how to hire developers, and they just hire like really crappy engineers, right? And so having someone that can at least help vet that, or having that strength, I think is a good quality. Someone that understands BD and marketing, and has hopefully had some type of management experience in the past, like dealing with just general issues that come up with having a team, like understanding that it's okay to let someone go if they're not a good fit, rather than just keep them around forever. So I don't know that there's 4, but those are the ones that I look for.
Anyone else? Yeah, right here. Oh, what? We'll come back.
What's that?
What do you think of K-12 education in America?
Like K through 12?
Think as in like, can you be more specific? Do you fundamentally believe the education system is broken?
It was really crappy for me. I mean, I actually, Tony Hsieh from Zappos is building a new school system in Vegas. He just now started talking about it. It's fascinating. It's awesome. I don't know how much of it he's disclosed yet, so I don't want to say a ton. But
they just announced everything yesterday.
Yeah, seriously.
I think. So yeah, I mean, it was like the schools in Vegas, but it's really fascinating.
It's really cool in that, like, one of the issues that I had growing up was that I wasn't ready for certain classes when they were forced at me. Like I was. It wasn't until my kind of later years that I really started caring about math. Like once I understood that I needed it for some of that for development, like once I was out of high school. And so the idea of like, I don't even know what I should say, but the idea of being able to go at your own pace and pick classes in different, if I don't want to take English this year, I don't have to take English this year. Like things like that are
less structure, more catered towards the student.
Exactly. I like that. There's a handful of different, like I went to Montessori growing up, and it was a lot like that, which was really cool. But there's a handful of school systems that are like that, mostly private. But
right here, and then we'll come here after that, or the other way around.
We are marrying tech with a nutrition beverage, and we're here tonight to try and find out the right channels we need to go through. Should we go after a tech VC or a beverage VC or a hybrid like a Tim Ferriss?
Probably Tim Ferriss. No, Tim Ferriss is going to be a great angel if you can get him, because he's, he kind of straddles both worlds, and he's also, if you can get him to be a spokesperson for your product, I mean, that's just a home run, just because he has a crazy following. But I've seen a handful of different food-related startups that have had difficulty raising money from traditional technology VCs, even though there's a little hint of tech there. So I would probably go with the VCs that are more catered towards the food and beverage industry.
Can I just ask you a question on that in terms of Tim, the following of these different people in your following? Have you felt like Twitter, that your impact, your 1.3 or 4 million followers that you have, do you feel like the impact of that has diminished over time? Has it increased over time? Like, do you feel like you get more clicks? Do you get more noise coming at you now than you did, 12 months ago or 18 months ago when you may have had less followers?
I think that for me, it's really seeing the shift, and I don't know if it's really a shift, but it's just the coming online of like other networks like Google Plus and Facebook has been fascinating. The level of engagement and clicks that I see at Facebook just blows everything else out of the water. Just because I think it's something that users are checking on a more frequent basis, and they're in front of their computer and they see the story come down, so they just have more people actually happen to see the story. So that's been awesome, but it's been about the same. It's kind of flat, I don't. Twitter's weird. Even though you have like a lot of followers, it only represents like 5,000 clicks, 7,000 clicks, 10,000 if it's really cool, depending on your title.
We have any other questions? Yeah, right here. Sorry.
A good tea is replacement for black coffee. Well, the fully oxidized black teas are going to give you the most caffeine punch. So, I would just start exploring some of the black teas, like the Indian teas or the Sri Lankan teas or things like that. That's probably the best bet. Actually, pu'er teas are really good too, but they don't have as much caffeine, but they have some very coffee-like characteristics, and they're very woodsy and earthy and awesome. So the pu'er teas from the Yunnan province of China are awesome.
You talked about that magical moment where you click your Ajax Digg button.
Yeah.
Are you still seeing things like that in the social, mobile, location-based gaming, all of this space right now?
No, not really.
Can I
Nothing's
repeat
really
it for you?
excited. Like I haven't like opened an app in a while and gotten really excited about it. There's I was playing around with HeyTell a while ago, probably about 3 or 4 months ago. It's like the walkie-talkie app with your iPhone, and it was kind of fun. There's another big competitor. What's the other one called? Like Voxy or Voxely or something. Those are fun, but oftentimes like I worry that. I feel like there was these when there wasn't as much competition for like our eyeballs and our just time in general, we would stick with apps a little bit longer. And I think like now you check something out and you just bounce after like a couple weeks. There's been like oh gosh, what was that? Turntable FM.
Yeah.
I was all about that for like a month,
Yeah,
and then
so
all of a
was I.
sudden I'm just like, I don't even check it anymore, And I'm wondering just like how many of these little spikes we're gonna start seeing of people just quickly moving on. Like our ADD has gotten worse with all these new apps. Like I started playing Amazing Breaker. Now I'm on to Where's My Water, and then
That's a fun game.
Lunar Racer.
Do you think it's worse with mobile than it is with web?
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely. I'm
yeah.
just trying to kill 10 minutes. When I get tired of that app, I'm
You're out.
deleting it out or on to the next thing.
Yeah. Okay, right here.
Just leading on from that, do you see investment in infrastructure or enterprise-related products as opposed to apps themselves as a space you want to go into because it's too risky to launch on the mobile app?
Do you feel investing in enterprise infrastructure apps is more interesting than the social apps?
I think that it's definitely a space that has less activity in as far as like just angels in that world. It's not a space that I really understand, so I tend to not really do anything there. That said, if there was another Mint type app that would be consumer but more a little bit finance or something like that, I might be interested. But yeah.
Yeah. Tom?
In regards to what you mentioned about just fatigue and stickiness of apps not being as big of an issue, what are the questions that you guys ask internally in regards to creating an app that has a higher value, just intrinsic value? What are you guys asking yourselves?
Yeah. So the question is, what are we asking ourselves internally when we're thinking about creating new apps? That's a good question. There's a couple different ways that we come up with ideas for applications and things that we want to tackle. We have some really awesome design talent, and I think that it's pretty easy nowadays to go out and just build really beautiful applications that are, something like you take the calculator and you make it awesome, or you build like, Tweetbot does a really good job. Who's the company that does Tweetbot? Do you know what I'm talking about? Anyway, they put out a suite of different apps, and they're all very beautiful, and they're great. And I think that's easy to go after. It's hard to find the bigger kind of disruptive type apps, and so when we're coming up with ideas, we always ask ourselves, what kind of new market is this creating, and then also what part of my day and what problem is it solving. And so I've gone as far as taking an entire catalog of my day from the moment I like open my eyes and writing down every single thing I do. And then asking myself, like, is there something here, right? So when I wake up, I take the covers off me. How are the covers? Am I too warm? Am I too hot? Is there anything there? Like, all the way to, like, brushing my teeth, to turning on the hot water, to, like, you know, is the temperature right in the house? And no, that's already been taken by those cool guys that made that thermometer thing. Like, you know, it's like you have to, like, you walk yourself through that entire day and think about, you know, are there any pain points there? You know, I was really impressed by what is it, Warby Parker with the glasses maker. You know what I'm talking about? They make these, yeah, they make these awesome designer glasses for like $99 with the frames. And the reason what, 95?
Sure,
yes, they do. I came up with an awesome startup that donates belts to gangsters that like sag their pants, and you like buy a belt. I thought that would be like a good Saturday Night Live skit where they're like doing a belt drop and all these gangsters run up and grab the belts. Like, anyway. So that's bad. So the cool thing about this eyeglass company is they went out and they said, okay, you can look at designer glasses that are $400 and you don't know they're designer glasses, but they look cool, right? So sometimes they have little markers on the side, but it's very different than like designer apparel or purses or shoes. And so they said we can make something that looks exactly like designer glasses at a fraction of the price, right? And they were able to just kill it, and they created a great online experience where you can map your face to the glasses and all that stuff. So, you know, I've been exploring all that stuff, both like externally, like actual physical goods tied to technology. So like the Cherry guys did with like, you know, dropping your pin of where you're at and all of a sudden your car is washed, you know, to what Uber has done to, you know, I think that there's a lot of kind of uncharted territory.
Digital to real world.
Yeah, digital to real world, exactly. Yeah. I think that's interesting. You know, no one's really nailed. I think TaskRabbit is doing a pretty good job. Coffee and Power, Zarly, some of these others. Someone is going to win that space of, you know, me wanting Ben and Jerry's at 2 a.m.
Yeah.
So I just think that so that's one way. The other way is that we look at industries. So we made a big long list of probably about 100 different industries, and we went down one by one and talked about, you know, are there any pain points here? Is there anyone that's just slow to adopt to new technologies, and it's just like an industry that hasn't been touched? To just random, like dumb, middle of the night, like in the shower kind of ideas. You know, those are also fun to explore.
Do you think a team is more likely to pivot into a great idea or to come up with a great idea right from the beginning?
That's a great question. I've seen it go both ways, so that it really depends on the team.
Okay, let's take one more question there. Go ahead.
Questions about considering building a sales force, but we want to do it like a non-pushy way. Is there maybe a company that you're involved with that's kind of created a force like that? It's killing it, but again, selling to businesses. I'm just curious kind of what you think.
Can you do sales without being pushy? Yeah. So
what is it about the pushiness that you're?
You know, we make tools for people with mobile apps, and the mobile engineers, you really can't push too hard on them.
Yeah, I've seen the guys that do Basecamp and the handful of different like collaboration suite that they do, 37 Signals. That group, I think, has done a really good job of just building high quality tools and using their customer base as the word of mouth of spreading their products out. They've been extremely successful. They have a great book out too that Jason Free put out, Rework, that you should check out if you haven't already checked that out. It's awesome. It's a lot about the lean startup and just how he got started, and I think that's been the one example of like a business play that I've seen that isn't in your face, but it's all about the high quality product that I've seen succeed.
Can we give Kevin a big round of applause?
Thanks, everybody.
For coming.
Appreciate it.
So a couple of things, and then so first of all, I want to thank Google Places, and is Ashley here? Right there in the back. Can we get Google Places has bought dinner for us, which we are so grateful for, and yeah, let's give her a big round of applause. Use this product for the love of all that's good in this world. Please use this product. Do you have a? How did we do? Did we do all right or no? All right, not great.
Read all right.
All right, guys, come on. Seriously?
But it's for a tablet, so somebody's going to be the big winner.
Let me see the name first, so it's not okay.
I have two in case the first one's not here. Kate Monks? Nope. Okay, it's not you then. Brent Daddy?
Brent Dady.
Dady?
There he is.
This is for
Give it
you.
to Brent. Brent is the game manager on the new Lara Croft game for Crystal Dynamics. Really cool guy. Thank you so much, and let me just introduce a couple more people, and then we'll finish this. A couple people at the back that I want you to meet. Ashley, where are you going to be standing? Are you going to be standing at that table there on the left? Okay, go up and please meet her and shake her hand and give her a hug if she's comfortable with that. I don't know. We've never met in person, so. But I wanted to introduce you to a couple guys. First is where are we going here? Let's start on this side. Startup Monthly. Yuri has been doing this for about a year, and he's got all sorts of awesome programs for startups. And you should go meet him and meet his team. Yuri, I'm not gonna let you speak. Sorry. Sorry, we gotta move. But go meet Yuri if you haven't already. He's awesome. He's a hustler, and you totally got to meet him. So go meet Yuri and join his program. Brian Reben, where are you at, Brian? Brian Reben, Brian's done all of our commercial real estate. He's like, he's an amazing guy. These people are just friends of ours, people we've used that are really great. He's done his commercial real estate in the last month is for companies that have done over 100 million in funding. He's just really great at what he does. So go meet Brian. These guys here, Tom and James, have flown in from LA. Again, guys that I've worked with they're recruiting managers, and they focus on mobile and technology, and they're amazing. So if you are looking for those types of skills, technical skills, developers, mobile developers, these guys are just absolutely the best. We're joking about this. Tom's already smiling, but they're the only sleazy or they're not sleazy. Yeah, sorry, bad call. Dang it. Well, at least you got the free peanuts out of the flight, right? No, they're like the best hiring guys I've ever met. So next to them on the left is the Media Fire team. This really amazing, actually massive startup out of Houston who's got this presence in Silicon Valley, and they're like. They do a lot of things Dropbox does and are extremely successful. So go meet those guys, talk to them. And just a couple of other people. Spencer Nielsen, iOS developer. Download his game. He's awesome. He's been doing this with us for, we've done this together for 2 years. And go see his game. He built it all himself. Dina, what's that? Invader Zerp. iOS, iPad, iPhone. Give it a good rating. Dina and Gio from Asian Fusion, really awesome entrepreneurs. Come meet Dina. She's like the nicest person in San Francisco. Idan and Sean from O-Life sitting here on the front row. Chris and where's Chris? Chris and Junior, raise your hands, guys. Community managers, can we give these guys one round of applause here real quick? Yeah, okay. A couple of other people I just want to quickly point out, Gary Triangian and Duncan Fairley. Just stand up real quickly. These two guys, Gary does all of EA's, Electronic Arts' ESPN integration. If you see anything from EA on ESPN, this guy is the guy that was in charge of it. He's also an Emmy Award-winning professional. And it's true. And Duncan does all of EA's social projects with YouTube and Facebook and Twitter. And Duncan as an intern started EA's Twitter feed in 2008, and like no one cared about it for the longest time, and he built it to what? How many has it got now? 800,000. That's pretty good, right? Round of applause. Intern 0. Then they eventually snatched it out of his hands, because somebody's like, "Geez, this is awesome." Twitter, it's the new thing. We can't have an intern doing it. So a couple of other things. Kevin has to run. He's came down from San Francisco. What he has agreed to do, which is a lot of you are new, so you haven't seen this, but a lot of our speakers have done this, and we're going to hold a VIP meeting contest with Kevin, where you can go in and you can pitch your startup. He has agreed to meet with the person that wins that contest. I will send out a link to that.
How many did Clavier do? How many you meet with? You meet with 3 people?
He did, yeah.
I'll do 5.
Wow. Standing O. Okay, so the top, yeah, okay.
Gotta one-up Clavier.
Cool.
Gotta give him crap.
That's really cool. So I will send that out tomorrow, and you can go load up your pitch, and I'll send out how that works and everything. Other than that, next month, Pinch. Sorry.
Go ahead.
I'm almost done. Pinterest founder Ben Silverman is here next month. We just confirmed it. We also have this, Bo Fishman, Zarly's founder, the following month. And we have Naval Ravikant in San Francisco next month as well. So startupgrind.com is, we just relaunched Startup Grind. It's this great site to get news and information about not only our events, but we're doing daily blog posts and featuring startups. So if you have a great startup write-up, come talk to me. And then Erica in the back. Erica, wave your hand. Erica is has a Square Reader, and she is available to. We have a Startup Grind Black Card program. You can get access to all of our events for the rest of the year. There's going to be over 20 events, and it's $200, and so it works out to be less than $10 an event. So if that makes sense to you, if you're going to come to a bunch of these, we hope you will. Then go talk to her, and we'll get you on the list, and we'll send you a card. Brian, also last guy, Brian in the back, great fan. Tell everyone what you do real quick, Brian. So 3D printing for entrepreneurs. So thank you so much for coming. If you leave here without meeting someone, you have failed. That is the absolute truth. As interesting as Kevin has been, he has been incredibly interesting. But you've got to meet somebody. So meet one of these people that I pointed out. Come say hi to me. You know, try and get your startup to the next step tonight. So please stay for food, and appreciate Kevin coming. So thanks a lot.
Thanks, everybody.
Guys.